Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday. I'm your host, Dr. G, and we are live on the 5th. I know it's been a minute that I've been on here. Yes, it's been a while, but duty calls, I have so many different things going on. So sometimes I cannot get on when I want to get on, but the key is to still try to be consistent. I apologize this evening for my lighting. I am streaming right now from one of my people's homes. So my background is there. We were about to jump into the pool, but I'm going to stream first and then we're going to make it do what it do. So as I stated before, tonight we are going to be talking about showing up for yourself, right? Showing up for yourself. How do you show up for yourself? Okay. So tonight's title, we're going to call it Here Unapologetically, Unapologetically Here. Follow me. Here we go again. We are here unapologetically, and we are unapologetically here. All right. So, how do you show up for yourself? All right. Every day is a new day. Every day you're in the hustle and you're in the bustle of life. Right. But then you just get to be where you are. You're doing what you, hey, baby, how you doing? Good. I'm online. So if you come, everybody's going to see you. That was one of my little nieces. Yes, but we are here unapologetically here. All right. Sometimes you just go through the motion, you go through life, right? You have your situations going on, you have your job, you have your family, you have your kids. And the person that you always tend to leave behind is yourself. All right. So, how do you show up for you, especially in times when you need you the most? Okay. How do you show up for yourself? What are some things that you do for yourself to make sure that you are showing up for yourself? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you being true to who you really are? Okay. How do you show up for yourself? Okay. Starting off, let's talk about, are you okay with the way that you show up for yourself daily? Are you okay with the way that you show up for yourself daily? Everybody might wake up in the morning, right? You have a routine. Whether it's you get up and you get the kids ready for school, whether you get up and you're making breakfast to yourself, whether you're a coffee drinker or not, you have motions that you go through every single day, you know. But along all of life's journeys and along all of the little routines that you have for your day, how do you show up for yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you are you are you making sure that you are starting yourself off on the best foot possible, right? How are you showing up for yourself? I don't know. I don't know if you have medications that you take. You know, we were laughing the other day because this weekend it was about 11 of us. We were down at this crib at a house hanging out, and we realized that we're getting older. And one of the things we were talking about was like going to bed early and people needing to take their medications. All right. So when you wake up in the morning, are you taking care of yourself? Whether it's spiritually, are you waking up and reading your word? Whether you do affirmations in the morning, whatever it takes to get your day started, are you doing that? How are you showing up for yourself? All right. Are you okay with the way that you show up for yourself daily? All right. Each day is a new day. How do you show up for the alley? Okay. How do you show up for all the alleys? Emotionally, physically, spiritually. How are you showing up in all of those kind of ways? All right. Are you a person that knows that you feel like you need exercise? Because exercise is a great routine for us to start our day. I know for people like myself, when I exercise first thing in the morning, like if I wake up early and I exercise, yeah, I might be a little bit sleepy, but once I hit that second wind, I feel really good. Actually feel better than the mornings I wake up and I don't exercise. All right. So that physical activity for me early in the morning is amazing for me. Like, I love it. All right. I can see there's one person on here. If you didn't catch me before, I'm outside today. I'm hanging out by the pool, hanging out with some friends, but I still got to make sure I show up for this podcast because the last couple of weeks I have had personal things that I have to do and I haven't been able to get on. So I try to be as consistent as I can be. And if nothing's going on, then I have to show up. I have time to swim when I'm done. But right now, I want to show up and do this podcast. All right. How are you showing up for yourself emotionally? Okay. Are you taking care of you? Right? Are you checking in with yourself to see how you're feeling? Is your conscience clear? And even if your conscience is not clear, are you checking in? Okay. Are you checking in to see if how you're feeling? But I don't see not only how you're feeling, is there something that you can do about whatever is bothering you emotionally? Okay, maybe you need to talk to someone. Maybe you need to talk to God if that's a spiritual part of you. All right. Maybe you just need some time to meditate. All right. Emotionally doesn't mean that you're off the meter and you're off the charts. Sometimes it's just a self check. Just because you've had good rest at night and you wake up in the morning, it doesn't mean you're still emotionally unbalanced. All right. People go through things all the time, and sometimes people go to sleep with a heavy heart. You know what I'm saying? So when you wake up, the first thing on your mind is that thing that you fell asleep with. So sometimes you still need to make sure that you can check in emotionally. All right. Make sure you're checking in physically if that's what it takes to get you going daily. All right. Make sure you're checking in with yourself spiritually if that's the part of life that you're in right now. All right. A lot of people get up and they do their prayers, they do their affirmations, they read, and I'm not just talking about reading the Bible. They're also reading something that is edifying to them, something that adds to their life. Whatever it is, maybe something for their career that helps them to be a better leader or helps them to be a better coworker or a better teammate. You know, it probably helps you to be a better person, period. Okay. Whatever it is, how are you going to show up for yourself? All right. But outside of all of those alleys that we talk about, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, okay, do you ever stop and notice a change in your behavior? You ever stop and notice a change in your thoughts? You ever stop and notice a change in the way that you deal with the different relationships in your life? Okay, your friendships, relationships with other people, associates, relationship with your significant other. Okay, people don't realize how much not showing up for yourself can influence the way that you deal with other people. Okay, the way that you deal with even yourself, right? You may lack confidence. You may lack self esteem. And then you might say to yourself, I'm a confident person. I feel good about myself. But then you know there's something that's weighing you down. There's something that you're not getting to that you know you want to do for yourself, right? Let's just say that you have kids, and it's the summer, right? And you're fully devoted to making sure that you take this time off to make sure that you're able to do something great for your kids this summer. But at the end of the day, even while you're doing something great for your kids this summer, you still also know that there's something that you would like to do for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, putting your kids ahead of you. That is the selflessness of being a parent, right? I'm not just going to say motherhood. It is the selflessness of being a parent. Parents that show up understand what I'm talking about. Okay. And then there are also those parents that will put themselves ahead of everybody else. Okay. That's not who I'm talking to. I'm talking to those parents that put their kids and everything else ahead of them, not because you, not because you just say, "Oh, I want to be a good parent," but it's just naturally what happens when you become that parent. Okay, so do you notice if you notice a change in your behavior and you seem irritable, all right, things just seems to get under your skin so easily, you got to check in with yourself. All right, it may be time for you to pause and take a break and show up for you. Do something for you to relax. Do something for you to reset because you may feel like you're superwoman or feel like you're Superman You know, you got to take care of your husband. You got to take care of the kids. A man got to take care of his wife. He's got to work. And just as women are working too. All right. But you still want to make sure that you are taking care of you and you are showing up for yourself. All right. Take time to acknowledge your thoughts. Okay. Take time to think about and see what thoughts are taking over your mind. See if you're starting to have more negative thoughts than positive thoughts. And when I say negative, I'm not going to the far left and going to the extreme. I'm just talking about sometimes you have things and you say to yourself, why am I even thinking about this? And where did this thought come from? And you have no idea what it is and where it even came from. But it's just the unbalancedness of life. It's just that everything that you're doing every single day, at some point, you have to stop and you need to check in. All right. One of the other things is just checking in with your relationships with people. Just checking your relationships with people. You have a good girlfriend and y'all seem to start bumping head over silly things, right? And you're like, wow, me and her good. Okay, I'm not even gonna say the guys, you know what I'm saying? Because guys go through their own things and they just deal with it, they move on, or they handle it in different ways. Okay, women, we can get into the tit for tat sometimes, but as you grow up, you just move on and go your own way. You know what I'm saying? So check in. If your relationships seem to be a little bit off balance and you're wondering why things seem so off, then you may just be in a place where you want to check in and make sure that you are showing up for yourself. All right. So here's a question that you kind of want to look into. Can you think of a moment when you didn't show up for yourself? Can you pinpoint something in particular and you say, yes, in this moment, I did not show up for myself? I have plenty of situations where I didn't show up for myself, and I hate to say it, but a lot of it, stems from being married for 10 years and involved with somebody for over 10 years. When I talk about you get into that space where you show up and you do things for people, right? But sometimes people that you're doing things for are not appreciative of who you are and what you're doing, you know. But out of the goodness of who you are in the moment, you're not going to sit there and say, well, you're not doing this for me, so I'm not doing this for you, because you want to show up for that other person. And sometimes when you show up for other people, it means you put yourself on the back burner. And that is just the way that it is. I'm going to say it again. Sometimes when you show up for other people, you end up putting yourself on the back burner. Now, I'm not asking you to look back at your past or regret anything you've been through, because I have no regrets. Everything I've been through in my life has been a life lesson, and I have capitalized on it, and I've moved on from it, and I have made my life better. All right. So I'm not talking about look back and regret. I'm just saying acknowledge a moment when you didn't show up for yourself. And when you acknowledge that moment where you know you didn't show up for yourself, you also acknowledge how it felt. Okay. When I look back at a lot of ways that I showed up, I didn't like how it felt now. Knowing what I know now, I don't like how it feels now. It's not setting me back, but it's a part of the healing process. I acknowledge it. Because if you don't acknowledge that you didn't like what it feels like, then those are the times where you're liable to go back and make the same mistakes over and over and over. So acknowledge it. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you stupid. All right. Everybody goes through life in different seasons of your life, and you do things and you're like, hindsight, I wouldn't have done it, but it's already done. So you move on from it. Look at it, realize it, acknowledge it. What did you gain from it? What are you learning from it? And then you move on. Okay. And if you learn anything from it, what are you changing now to make sure that you don't repeat those same habits? Okay. And that's the most important thing. I learn from what happened before so that I don't repeat the same habits over again. And that's all to it. You have to acknowledge your past in order to move on. If you just decide I'm just going to ignore it like it never happened, it's going to creep back up on you. And it's not going to creep up on you only physically, it also going to creep back on you emotionally, because you are still tied to a feeling from the past. It is very hard to move forward if you cannot break those curses. Like they like to say, break generational curses, even stuff that you've been through in the past. You've got to break free from it. And the only way you break free from it is for you to acknowledge that this and this and this happened. Okay. And give yourself the space to move on from it, heal from it. All right. One thing that you learn as you move forward is how to set boundaries. Okay. How to set boundaries. Sometimes when people set boundaries, it makes them uncomfortable. And it makes you uncomfortable because if you are a people person and you want to constantly please people, it makes you uncomfortable to set boundaries. Because when you set boundaries, it means that you're taking something away from somebody that you would naturally give to them all the time. And that is why it's uncomfortable. But the question is, why should you feel uncomfortable doing right by yourself? Why would you feel uncomfortable showing up for yourself? Okay. And that's the trick to it. I'm uncomfortable because I'm not being able to give this or that to somebody else. But I'm also uncomfortable because I have to now do something for myself that I wouldn't regularly do. And that is something to really pay attention to. Okay. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is very uncomfortable. And that is why when you set boundaries after you're showing up for yourself and letting go of things that you've been through in the past, it feels very uncomfortable. Okay. But it's necessary. It is very necessary for you to grow. While you're at a standstill and you're a people pleaser and you are only wanting to do for somebody else and you're not wanting to do for yourself, and now you get into a space where you say, you know what, I'm not going to do that for them because I need this for me. That uncomfortability is where you begin to grow. It is necessary for your growth. It is necessary for you to move forward. It is necessary for you to keep building and keep striving to your purpose. Okay. You have to be able to get uncomfortable. You have to be able to, sorry, somebody's commenting. What's up? What's up? You have to be able to be uncomfortable doing the uncomfortable thing when it's time for you to grow. There's a saying that people always say, what doesn't kill you make you stronger. All right. And then people have this saying that they also like to say, but did you die? Sometimes when I'm in my classroom and I have my kids do some writing activity and they don't want to do it, when they finally get it done, I always look at them and they're always like, but did you die? And then they look at me and laugh. They're like, no, because they don't like to write. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. It is something that's uncomfortable for them because it is a hard part of their education, but they're growing. Every time they write, they're growing. Okay. It's the same as an adult in life. When you show up for yourself, there are things that you're going to have to leave behind, and it's going to be uncomfortable when it's time for you to grow. Okay. So set those boundaries. Be okay with setting those boundaries. Okay. You will be okay. And once you become okay with being uncomfortable and realizing that it is for you and it makes you better, you're going to find that it becomes easier for you to set boundaries. Okay. Because one thing that happens if you're not able to set boundaries with people is you start to devalue who you are. Okay. You start to miss out on your self worth. All right. And that happens in everything, everything you do. When you are not showing up for yourself, you are putting yourself for sale. You're on clearance. You understand what I'm saying? And bless you if you're showing up for people that are not taking advantage of you. That's something else that you need to pay attention to. All right. The people that you're showing up for and you're leaving yourself behind, hopefully they're not taking advantage of you. Okay. So once you've revisited and you realize the things that you dealt with in your past, right? What did you learn from it and how would you change what you learned then? Okay. One of the big questions that coaches or life coaches or therapists or counselors like that as people is, What is something that your now self would tell your past self? You know, reflect on that for a minute. When you're showing up for yourself, what would you tell your past self? No matter what, whatever you've been through. All right. So if I have to think of myself and put myself in the situation, um, one of the things that I would tell my past self is that you can still be a good person. You can still be an amazing human being by respectfully setting boundaries and respectfully showing up for yourself. Because sometimes when you're in different situations, you snap and you lose it. And the way that you show up is not the way that you would naturally want to show up. Right? So you just have to respectfully show up for yourself. And like I said, it's hard because people that are taking advantage of you when you show up for yourself, they are going to make you out to be the bad person. 200%. Mark, follow me when I tell you this. When people are using you and when people are taking advantage of you, when you show up for yourself, they are going to make you out to be the bad person. Okay? This is when it becomes so hard to set boundaries. Okay? But you have to be able to live in that space, you know. And right now I'm talking to those people that's in, it doesn't matter if it's a friendship, a relationship, a situationship. It doesn't matter if that's what you're going through. You have to be okay with knowing that when you set those boundaries, people are going to characterize you as somebody outside of who you are. And you have to know for yourself that you are not that person. And you have to be able to move on knowing you are not that person. All right. So set those boundaries. Okay. Heal yourself. Okay. I talk to people all the time and they talk about the things that they've been through. Are you healed? Okay. Are you healed? How do you know if you're healed? Okay. You can go into a situation that you've been through before that, when I say caused you pain, I don't mean it was detrimental to you. It's just something that you probably said that you've forgiven. You've forgiven somebody about something, right? But then when you step back into that same situation, okay, you've been away from it for years, but something shows up and it triggers you and you can't move past it. You can't see it for what it is, acknowledge it, say, I remember when, this is how it made me feel, but this is who I am now, and being able to move on. And I'm not saying you have to move on in 4, 5, 6 minutes. I'm just saying that you're able to talk about it and you're able to move on. I could be wrong, but for me, that is a sign that tells me that you are healed from something. Okay. There are people that are triggered by certain things that they said they healed from, and it takes them back 10 steps. That's okay. It's okay. It just means you're not healed. It just means that you still need to seek counseling, or you still need to seek help, or you still need somebody to talk to. There are still things that triggers you that much that you cannot move on. You still need to seek counseling or seek help for it. It doesn't make you weak. It just means that you're not there yet. All right? So are you healed? Heal yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed to talk to someone. Don't be afraid to get counseling. Don't be afraid to talk to a therapist. Don't be afraid to talk to a life coach. All right? Make sure you are healed. Okay? You will be the best version of yourself if you are healed. All right? If you can heal yourself, you be the best version of yourself. All right? Okay, so now when you moved on, okay, here's a question that I have, another one. Can you be compassionate to yourself and still be disciplined so you don't repeat behaviors of not showing up for yourself? Let me ask you that again. Hold on. Let me check. I got a comment. Yes, Queen J, you are worthy. And that is the beginning of it. I am worthy. Say it to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror. We're all worthy. Absolutely. All right. So here's the question I'm going to ask. Can you be compassionate to yourself and still be disciplined so you don't repeat past behaviors of not showing up for yourself? In a nutshell, all that long question is asking is, can you give yourself grace from what you've been through? Grace for not showing up for yourself from before? Grace to say, I acknowledge that it happened and I'm moving forward, and still be disciplined to not get trapped, to not take yourself 10 steps backwards. Okay? Give yourself grace. Show yourself compassion. All right? We're all human. Okay? And we're not perfect. Okay? If those behaviors cause you to repeat past behaviors, then check it and do what you did before that got you to this place where you were showing up for yourself. Okay? It's like asking for forgiveness. You know, you ask for forgiveness repeatedly, not because you're not forgiven, but because there's something in you that makes you feel like you need to keep asking for forgiveness. It's the same way. Keep giving yourself grace. Okay, the more you give yourself grace and the more you show up for yourself, the easier it's going to be to not show up and have these past behaviors. Okay, do right by you. Okay, and that is one of the things that you can do for yourself. All right. One of the biggest things that keep people from not showing up for themselves is trauma. All right, it's trauma. Okay, we're not on the topic of trauma tonight, but I'm just mentioning that one of the biggest things that keep people from showing up for themselves is trauma, because they refuse to seek help. All right, they refuse to seek help. And one of the hardest things about when you're going through trauma is that you're invisible. Trauma is the waiting room for invisibility. I'll tell you again, trauma is a waiting room for invisibility. Don't get stuck being invisible. And I'm not talking about being invisible to others. I'm talking about being invisible to yourself. Okay? Don't get stuck in that space where you are invisible to yourself. Okay? Trauma can imprison you. Trauma can imprison your thoughts. Trauma can imprison your behaviors. Trauma can ultimately and possibly take over your lifestyle. And you deserve better. You absolutely deserve better. And you don't deserve better for me. You deserve better for yourself. You deserve better for yourself. Okay? If you feel that you are stuck in trauma and you are invisible to yourself, seek counseling. All right? Get some help. Find out somebody that can help you, because you deserve to show up for yourself unapologetically. You deserve to be here unapologetically and unapologetically be here. All right? So don't allow trauma to imprison you. Okay? And right before we get ready, I'm getting ready to wrap this up. All right? If you're dealing with trauma, you can't seem to find a way out, like I said, talk to someone you trust. Seek professional help. Okay? A lot of times people say, oh, it's not a big deal. Are you sure? Are you sure it's not a big deal? A long time ago, I had a show I did one of my friends, and we were talking about isolation. Okay? We were talking about isolating yourself versus finding solitude. Okay? Be mindful that you are not sitting in the waiting room of being invisible because you are dealing with trauma. Because you are dealing with trauma. All right? I'll be okay. That's what people say. I'll be okay. It's not a big deal. I'll be okay. Don't waste your years waiting for change you know you can't handle by yourself. Okay? Don't waste those years. You're spending a lot of days saying, I'll be okay, I'll be okay. And then weeks have gone by, months have gone by, years have gone by. And you've been saying, I'll be okay for a very long time. So give yourself a gift, the gift of being present. Okay, give yourself the present of presence. Show up for yourself. Okay, you deserve to do that for yourself. All right, so here we go. All right, so before I go, I would encourage you to stop putting your healing on layaway with the intention of not making those weekly deposits or those weekly payoffs. All right, let me say that again. Stop putting your healing on layaway with the intention of not making those weekly deposits or making those weekly payoffs, okay, to find yourself, to get yourself back, to show up for yourself, okay? Find your voice, all right? Experience the value of your self-worth because you matter, okay? You have a voice. It's for you. You matter for yourself. You ought to show up for yourself. Okay? All right. And lastly, I'll leave you with this thought. As long as you keep walking in strength, truth, integrity, dignity, and stay confident in showing up for yourself, I am believing you will walk into your purpose. All right? That is my thought. Okay? As I was preparing for this podcast, I wrote it down because that's what I felt. And I'm going to repeat it again. As long as you keep walking in strength, truth, integrity, dignity, and stay confident in showing up for yourself, I am believing that you will walk into your purpose. All right? Show up for yourself. Make sure you are doing what you need to do to heal. Don't allow trauma to be your waiting room for invisibility. Okay? You deserve better for yourself. You've been doing it for everybody else. So come on and show up for yourself. All right? So I thank you tonight for joining me on the 5th. The 5th. All right? Remember, you matter. We all matter. Everybody matters. So show up and take care of yourself. All right? God bless y'all. Have a good night.